Guys, welcome back to the Builders Coach Show. I'm Jess, and alongside Kurt, every week we discuss some relevant topics, strategies, inside stories from clients, specifically for builders and construction company owners. Don't forget, if you're liking this episode and all the other ones, don't forget to subscribe and like. But let's get into it. Welcome, Kurt.
Yeah, thank you. And you too. Yeah, let's excited about this episode.
Yes.
Lots to get through.
The first thing I was going to ask you is, how's your week been? Do you have any little nuggets of information from your clients? Let's just share some insights.
Yeah, it's been a good week. Thanks for asking. But I feel like I finally got the freight train up and running. Getting up to speed and enjoying it, right? Also like the health and fitness and everything else. But I did have a new client start this week. And it was interesting because they were talking about how they have done some business development before. They've actually subscribed to a company where there was a lot of content, like video content that they could access. And he said it was great content, like there's some really good information out there. But his challenge was not about getting new information and new ideas for his business. It was more about the implementation. So we needed some accountability and also some guidance with the sequence of systems implementation. Yeah. And that got me thinking. It made me think like we are an implementation business because the world's changed, right? Like there was access to information that was a challenge, before the 2000s. And then I believe it was after 2010, everything's online. Like every bit of information you could possibly imagine is now accessible online. And it's more about knowing how to access the right information for you based on where you are and where you want to go. So it's getting, someone to help you with that, or you developing the skill to be able to find that information and then implement it in the right sequence and get it done quickly and well without getting put off. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. And actually it ties with a book that I've been reading, and I think you've been looking into it also, from Daniel Priestley.
Yes, he's blown up on the internet recently.
Yes, it's
he's
funny
on a few podcasts.
Yeah, you know how you see one person somewhere and then it stops popping up everywhere? Like I feel like I've got that with him right now. Yeah. I think I mentioned it to you via the Diary of a CEO podcast. And then he popped up on something else. And then I think one of your clients mentioned him. And then now I'm listening to his book also. So he's got some really interesting thing. And one of the thing, which is what you were talking about, is really, he mentions how there's so much information out there, especially since 2010, and that you really need to make sure you deliver value, but really give out value, but then help people implement it. Does that make sense?
Yes. So value creation is it's first principles, right? First principles thinking. Elon Musk talks about it. That's how the lens that he looks at the world through is first principles, boiling things down to the simplest form. And a first principle of wealth creation is adding value, right? Or value creation is a first principle of wealth creation. So, he talks about adding value. But were you listening to him on a pod? Because I saw him come up on a few and I wasn't sure. It's fascinating how that happens, where it's like, is it your reticular activating system? When you buy a car and you see more of them on the road, is that what's happening? Or is it like synchronicity and like serendipity where all of a sudden the right information's coming up because you need it? What do you think?
You know what? It's probably, it's probably the AI in my phone is showing me all these things for sure. I've been listening to this podcast and then obviously it popped up in another podcast and then the book just came up, etc.
Yeah, but then you mentioned it to me.
And I mentioned it to you,
and then a client mentioned it to me, as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's because of his exposure, getting a lot of exposure. But sorry, so you said, going back to your original point of discussion, so adding value and then implementation. So could you just expand on that? Well, what was he saying exactly?
No, so he mentions how there's so much information out there, and so he says that as a company, you should really try to put value out there for free.
Yes.
And I think he even talks about Oprah, right? He said, put some value out there for free. Okay, that's educational content, nuggets of information. So real value, not actual value. But then if people are interested to implement that, then they'll come and see you. And I think it's like he mentions like fitness things. Like you can go and put out there how to lose weight and what are the exercises you need to do. But at the end of the day, then if someone is interested, look, put it out there. Like what is the perfect plan? Diet plan, meal plan, exercise plan, etc. But if they want to implement, they're gonna go and see a PT, right? Yeah. And then there's different.
If they want to do it properly, depending on what they want. So how does this relate to builders? So it's education-based sales and marketing, which is what we teach. But before you start putting content out there and trying to educate people and then encourage them to use you to implement or build their house, you need to decide on that niche. What is that specialty? And then within that, there's layers. Like you can layer it. Like you could do architectural builds, custom homes in your geographical location, which is part of that niche. It's like you work in that area and build up a portfolio in that geographical location. And then it could be green technology and smart technology as well, layered on top of that. And then that becomes highly relevant to someone who wants, a green architectural build with smart technology woven into it, in a certain geographical location. They'll be drawn to you. But then there's a lot you can talk about as a builder in terms of educating people on the options, how to go about it, your build processes, your team, suppliers, or whatever it is. And I think that's what he was talking about. Is that right? What Daniel was talking about?
Yeah, but actually, so this is what I wanted to do in this episode, if that's good with you. I thought we could go through a few of these principles and just see how we can translate this. So how can this be helpful for builders?
How does it apply to residential builders or just builders in general? And
and maybe you can share some stories with us along the way.
Sure.
So I've got a few questions for you. He talks about event-driven business models and really about planning your year and having some events and campaigns. And that ties in with this giving value to your ideal clients. So I was wondering, so how can builders potentially implement such campaigns to generate, excitement and most importantly, demand for their services?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the term was like having a campaign-driven business versus just a business, busyness where you're just busy getting work, doing work, getting work, doing work. It's having like an ecosystem that, within that there are multiple campaigns. So what do we mean by campaigns? So that's, again, within the framework of education-based sales and marketing. And marketing is really selling in advance if you're educating people on what you do and how you do it well. So you could have, video content that goes out, some builders, and okay, maybe we should start with optimization, right? So what's the ultimate outcome? We've got guys that run information nights for their clients, and they'll get other stakeholders there, like a real estate agent or an architect, talking about, whether people should renovate or sell. What's happening with the local market? How much can you increase the equity value of a property in that location based on current market conditions? And then the builder can talk about what's involved, with the build process, the pre-construction phase where you can introduce an architect as well. And there's people, the last guy that I know that ran one of those events, he sent an email out to, I think, 60 people, and it was booked out immediately. It's highly relevant to people that are wanting to build. Okay, so that could be something that you do once a year or once every 6 months. You could also do webinars. You could be a guest on podcasts. I'm a member of or a platinum sponsor for the Sustainable Builders Alliance. So those are builders that are heavily focused on and, working hard to become more sustainable, involve green technology in their businesses. And they have events that they run for builders, and then they attend other events that clients could go to as well. There could be expos, that sort of thing. At least 14 of our private clients have co-authored books with me, as you know.
Right.
And then they will hand those out and even do, book signings at their information nights as well. So within an education-based marketing system, ideally you want to become very well known in your specialty or your niche, and almost become a celebrity in your space. Not a celebrity where you can't go to the airport without getting noticed, right? But just become well known in your area for whatever it is that you do, and then use all the different platforms out there to get your message out, because there's like endless content and things to talk about when it comes to building. Some of the companies out there, if you want examples off the top of my head, like Three Birds, they're not a building company, even though they joint ventured with other building companies. They do that. Like they've got a lot of content that goes out on YouTube. They've got videos. There's Grayer, Future Flip. The guys in the States, Magnolia, that couple.
Oh, yes, I know.
Like that's phenomenal. So they would run a campaign-driven business where at the beginning of the year, they mapped, or at the end of the year, they mapped the next 12 months out. So what are all the video shoots they're going to do, the events that they're going to attend, the different promos, the magazines, the awards that they're going to enter. It goes on and on. So it's about making it relevant to your specialty. So you've got to decide
and
that.
it's quite, the things you've mentioned are quite out of the box, right? These are not like standard things that everyone knows they should be doing or trying to do. So I think it's thinking outside of the box, which also makes me think of really the idea of having a brand, like, having a personal brand or having like your company brand. It's really like, what do you stand for? How do you differentiate yourself? And that's something that he also mentions quite a bit. What is unique about you, and really understanding that uniqueness and your value. And then based on that, who's your ideal client, and really understanding that. I think that's really highly relevant for builders too.
And just to like position it with people, like those examples I gave, those are outliers, right? Those again are examples of optimization and people that have really gone all in their space. You don't need to do that to be successful. Like you could have, a niche where you just do, renovations, you remodel in your area, you do it well, you've got good client communication, a great team, a good reputation, and, you overbook the flight. So you have more people, just through your marketing systems, you create your own economy of supply and demand, where you have more people, waiting at the front door that you can service, which is counterintuitive, like a lot of things that work in business. And then you have a process for politely saying no or referring to other people. And then you have a steady flow of work that you can deliver on your terms, which is the key thing, right? You ideally want to live a life on your terms. You want your business to give you, freedom, lifestyle freedom. And that requires that you run things in your terms with your client's best interest at heart. So obviously you want to be client-centric, but you want to take them through a process that's well-defined. Yeah, but you don't have to become an influencer to be successful.
Yeah, of course. And I think that goes back to it reminds me of the exclusivity of something, right? Which, when we talk about big brands, they charge more for this idea of it's more exclusive. Didn't you tell me about, I think you knew about it and I didn't, this Hermes handbag that you have to like pre-order, put your name down.
Burgundy? Is it?
Oh, yes, that one, yeah. You have to pre-order, put your name down, etc.
You can't get it. Like first of all, you've got if you want to go buy one now, they'll just go no. I think you've got to wait 2 years.
Yeah,
something like that.
You have to put your name down on a wait list.
Waiting list. They make you wait, and it's all manufactured scarcity. That's what those brands do. We were talking about it just before with like Louis Vuitton, Chanel. Yeah. You can't just walk in and you'll see there's stores that sell handbags just down the street, 50% off, and there's no one there. And then there's a queue outside the Louis Vuitton store. Yeah. And then once you get in, you get assigned to a client services manager or salesperson who then makes you wait again, 5 to 10 minutes. And then finally they get to show you some of the products, and then you leave with something and you feel really special.
You feel like it's a really special thing.
Yeah. They make you feel special, but they're not going to... it's their process, not yours. They take you through their process. Yes, you may feel like royalty, but they also charge, 20, 30 times more than anyone else. And they're not going to give you a discount.
No, that's for sure.
Like I've asked, right? Like I've been like, so you guys, what's your best price? And they're just like, no.
You actually asked that in the LV shop.
Yeah, and I did it to test it because I'd heard about it, right? I heard that they will never, ever discount.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm going to be the first guy, that comes out with a, 10% off or something. maybe they've got stock they want to get rid of and they're like, okay, for you because you're a special customer or whatever. Yeah. But no, that's not the case. And also, I mean, I try to buy something off the shelf where they had none in stock, just the only one left. And they were like, nah.
You were like, no, I'll take the one from the shelf.
No, go ask your manager and, tell him I want that. I want to take it. I'll take it now. And they said, look, I'll ask. He's probably going to say no. And went away, came back and he said no. And I was like, wow, respect. I was like, I love this brand. I love how they operate. They're doing it on their terms, and they understand the importance of doing that. Because the opposite of that is trying to sell, chasing people, and it's almost coming across way too needy. So it's actually quite easy for builders to do that, to create that scarcity.
Well, I was going to say, because they do, I mean, they need time, right? So it's not as if they can just say yes to any client. So what's your recommendation there? Like if you have like a bit of a strategy or tips for our builders out there.
So look, it's quite simply, it's marketing, right? That's why marketing's a holy grail. You create your own economy of supply and demand. And I often get asked, like, how you seeing it out there? What's it like for your guys? My builders are mostly booked out unless they've just come to us and then we're still doing that and like setting up their system. So they put intelligent marketing systems in place, so they're overbooked. And then that's how they put themselves in a position where there's more demand than they can. And it's a real thing where that's when they'll be saying no, and there's processes for saying no. And, they create that scarcity. So it's not like a manufactured scarcity like with these big brands where they could have thousands of bags in stock and they can produce as many as they can, as there are people in China or wherever they make them. But if you're an architectural builder, like if you're doing architectural homes, maybe 10's your max. And you need to know your capacity. Actually, Daniel Priestley talks about that as well. You need to know what your capacity is based on your resources, including your team and your systems and your financial resources. And then, use forecasting to be able to project forward what things look like, including, again, team structure, systems, business development, process, financials, cash flow forecast, revenue projections, so that you can see how things are going to unfold and then grow your business in a controlled way.
It must be pretty daunting for some of your clients when they have to say no for the first time. They'll have like someone coming in and say, hey, we want to work with you. And then they'll be like, oh, okay.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Right? Like it is. If someone wants to give you money and then you say no, but it's also liberating. Like pretty much every time it happens, with one of our private clients, our guy says, hey, man, like I said no to this guy. And there's a story that springs to mind. This guy said no to like a high net worth individual, someone worth, like $500-600 million. And the guy's, he's in his world, people, he says jump, people say how high. The majority of them, there's a few that don't, probably his wife, right? But there's a lot that do. And then all of a sudden, this builder, he's going, look, no. And no is like, look, I'm probably not the right fit. I know someone who's perfect, and then pass him on. And
And was that because it was just not a fit in terms of the demand, or was it just like a bad, I don't like to say a bad client, but,
badly behaved, it was badly behaved client. So the client was literally coming over the top and sort of almost like, and some of these guys are very charismatic and they have good rapport building skills, but being dictatorial. It's like dictating, this is how it's going to be, this and the guy was like, you know what? Initially, he was excited because the job's amazing. This guy's obviously got the money, and then imagine his Rolodex and his contacts, but it was just going to be too painful. And the guy was deviating from the builder's process, which is set up to give him the best possible outcome, and that's dangerous. It's like you going to a doctor and then you trying to tell him how to do the surgery.
Yeah.
At some point he's going to go, well, I'm going to lose my license here. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it, I think, because I think it's highly relevant for builders and also because you spoke about it before. But Daniel Priestley talks about being positively remarkable. And what he means by that is really like delivering so much on what your product, your service, so well that, your clients are just boasting about you and just like, are full of
Did you say positively remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard Joe Rogan talk about being undeniable. So just being so good that no one can deny that you are exceptional at what you do. So it comes back to having a specialty, going an inch wide, a mile deep, becoming exceptional at what you do, setting the bar quite high, raising standards all the time in little increments, keep working on improving what you do in a way that is relevant to your clients. So understanding your market, what are their needs and wants and different things. What do they want?
Yeah,
and then catering for that. Yeah.
So you mentioned the idea of, building like raving fans when it comes to your customers. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a lot to unpack with that question, right? Like there's being client-centric. So you look at companies like Virgin, right? They're client-centric and they spend time and energy understanding their clients, and then they do things for them that make them happy and basically create raving fans. You need a process for doing that. So most guys struggle to get their business to a point where they can do that, and you've got to look upstream, like with where to start with this. And when I say upstream, pre-construction phase, like getting the numbers right. Because if you're going to change things on people, like the numbers, if a guitar is going to cost a certain amount and then it changes, that's going to piss people off. It's going to struggle to build raving fans. You've got to have certain fundamentals in place. Make sure you've got a process for accuracy with the numbers, a process for proactive communication from the get-go within a particular niche, so that you can demonstrate expertise. Right? And you can do that through marketing, through education-based marketing, videos that demonstrate you know what you're doing, you're talking about, and that you've got a string of happy clients. And then through the build process as well, just deliver on your promises. Like, know that it's around 40% of businesses out there can't do what they say they do. So can you build, on time, within budget, to standard? All right. So get that down. Once you can do that consistently well, then you can add layers on top of it, like strong client communication. All right. So get processes in place for client selections, and then overlay that with a client services manager, maybe joint venture with an interior designer that takes people through color selections and out to go and do their selections, and ideally do that pre-construction before you turn any soil or start the job. Get all that done and make it enjoyable and fun. And if you can do that, you'll have raving fans.
Yeah, and then obviously objective is that they go and speak to their people, and then next thing you know, everyone's coming in and asking you to build with them.
Yeah, but again, like just a caveat, you can't go and overlay that, like try and create that amazing client experience if you haven't got solid pre-construction, job programming, you're not delivering on time, you're not delivering to standard, and your numbers are all over the map, which is unfortunately most guys when they come to us.
Yeah.
Or before, some of the guys come to us already in a good position. We call them like a walking start, but there's a lot to be said for laying the slab of your business systems and structure. Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of brings me to this next question that I have for you, which is about these foundation, I guess. Scaling through structured systems. So let's talk about, structuring the business for scale.
Yes.
Okay. What key systems or processes should builders put in place to handle increased demand?
Okay. So
without compromising on quality, obviously.
Yeah. So first up, not everyone wants to scale, right? There's a lot of businesses out there, particularly like marketing businesses and some coaches as well. They talk about growing, scaling, and as a percentage of guys come to me, they're like, "Hey, I just want to stay boutique. I just want to get really good at what I do, become undeniable at what I do, offer a quality, real quality product and experience, and then, handpick my clients. If I've got 100 people waiting at the front door, I'm only going to do 10 jobs. That's it. I cap it at that. And then maybe turnover 6-7 million, good net profit, and then feed that into a development arm or an Airbnb business or whatever else they want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So just want to make that clear. Okay, but what about people that want to scale? Because I have had guys come to me going, "Hey, let's go 100 mil," right? So I spoke to a guy this week who is, he's got 50 million in the pipeline, and he's going to be doing 100 mil next year. Nice. So he's scaling. So what's he doing to scale well? Well, he's got his 12-week plan. He's got his business development plan. He's doing stand-up meetings. He's consistently looking to put processes, checklists in place and eliminate bottlenecks. So he's got a process for doing that. He's building a team of really good people as well. And they are crystal clear on their specialty. Okay, so they do modular type work. So it's almost like a manufacturing type business where a lot of the build is done in sort of a manufacturing sort of plant and then assembled on site. It's a different type of build. It's cheaper. It's quicker to do. But he's very clear on his specialty and then has the front end, which a lot of the marketing's relationship based in their particular niche. And, constantly forecasting ahead with team structure, systems, what it needs to look like to accommodate the growth, which in their case is rapid, significant growth. Yeah. So that's one example. And they can just keep growing from there. And then it's also about, raising money, getting investors in, speaking to particular banks, the government, there's grants, all these sorts of things, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's loving it. It's exciting. And it's exciting to be involved and to talk to him all the time. So that's one example of pure scale. Another is, we've got a builder that does renovations, extensions, remodeling, right? Mm-hmm. To the tune of about 6 million in a certain geographical location. He built an operations manual. He's got it running like a well-oiled machine. They go in with a certain margin at the front end. That gets held on delivery. It's sorted at the end. And the business is optimized at that sort of capacity of about 6 mil over a 12-month period with a certain net profit. Mm-hmm. He's been able to set that up with the business manager that runs that and then open up a second site in a different location, also with a view to do the same. And he's opened up a third and he's looking at doing a fourth. So that would be, like creating an operations manual and having marketing systems and job delivery processes and job descriptions and KPIs and everything that works well. Mm-hmm. And then taking that and then licensing it out. So you could franchise it or license it, or you keep ownership and just open up satellite offices in different locations. So if you're looking at 4 of those, you'd be doing 20 mil turnover, but it's 4 satellite offices, each doing between 5 and 6 mil.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Those are very different setups.
And one of them runs independently. Like what the office, the first one runs 100% independent of the owner. Yeah. So from inquiry all the way through to after handover, there's no involvement at all. And then he's looking at like an ownership model, like profit sharing is already in place, and then potential ownership for these business managers, which keeps them there for the long term as well.
Awesome.
So those are just 2. There's obviously other ways to scale, but there's a couple of examples.
No, but those are interesting ways to do it. Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about business assets because I know some of your clients have got some really good ones. So tell me, what does building assets mean? What are they exactly, and how can builders develop them?
Well, I mean, I spoke about co-authoring books. So a book would be an asset, for the business in terms of intellectual property and something you can do. You can use to educate clients, build credibility and trust, and it's hard to replicate. Like it's difficult to get something like that done. Well, maybe these days it's getting easier depending on the quality of what you put out. But operations manual, quite simply, that's the equity that you build into a business, and that's exactly what that example I just spoke about, where the guy's got the 4 offices. There's an ops manual that is replicated for each of those locations. But if you're just going to stay in one place and keep it boutique, the way that you build equity and value into the business and literally make your business a sellable asset is to have an operations manual that you could pass on to someone else, which also then covers off succession, because what if something happens to you, get hit by a bus, can someone get into the business and drive it? Yeah. And there's actually an example of a business where sadly, there was a scenario where I think there were 6 directors of this company, and they all happened to be on the same plane. They were on a trip in Africa, and it crashed, and they all died. However, they had a very strong succession plan. They literally had a plan in place for the unlikely event that everyone was going to die. So the next day, people knew exactly what to do. It was written out very clearly. Here's what you do. You get in, this is how you drive the business. Here's the vision, the mission, the 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 12-month plan. Yeah. And there were people there that could keep it going. In most instances, when a builder finishes up, that's it. He just closes the doors and
shut down.
Wanders off into the sunset. Yeah, there's no sale or succession.
Yeah. And obviously that adds long-term value to the business.
Yeah, and then just like to be clear, an ops manual includes your systems and processes for every area of the business. So your sales, your marketing, your job delivery, your job descriptions, whatever processes and technology you have in place. It's all there. Yeah.
Many builders find themselves competing on price. We know this, and often, it's a race to the bottom. So let's talk a little bit about, how do we transition from a price competition to really value creation from a builder's perspective? Yeah. What are the steps in order to shift that focus?
Well, there's certain markets where, like you see the volume builders, right, that do cookie cutter homes. That's a predominantly price-based environment. So you don't want to be competing in those bloody waters, right? You want to differentiate and, become like the Mercedes-Benz. Like if you look at the car analogy, you get Toyotas, Kias, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Porsche, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghinis. They've all created value for their clients. Like you don't look at a Toyota and a Mercedes and go, well, what the hell's going on? Yeah, why is that one so much more expensive? This is BS. Why would they charge more? You can see the value. When you take it for test drive, you can feel the difference over the BMW, right? So you want to be the builder that does that. Like decide where you're going to set the bar. Like, when you think about leadership and the hallmark of leadership being decision-making, you as the leader of your business need to decide where you set the standard and then choose to hold that standard there with your processes, with your people, and then you build a culture around that, which is really just the values in action, people, acting out and behaving in a certain way to demonstrate those values. So there's that done well in a particular specialty, right? So if you're going to build, custom homes on sloping blocks on the coast, with the materials that are going to deal with the ocean and the rust factor, and you're using green technology, right? And you have some of the best trades for smart technology, then you're probably going to be in a position where you'll have zero competitors. Yeah. So you're creating, not competing. Then you overlay the client communication that we spoke about. There will be people that will want you to build for them and are not going to be too concerned about price. The value management process is another big one. Just relationships with the right architects and designers who see value in getting accuracy with the numbers and then having a process for ensuring that happens and then taking people through that, focusing heavy on the relationship within your specialty, whether it's, luxury custom homes or whatever you do. Then there will be people who will not want to go out to tender. They don't want to get competitive quotes. They'll be happy to work with you. And if you've won awards, so you're an award-winning builder, it's a slam dunk. But you've got to do the work, right? You can't just go, I'm gonna, people are gonna come to me and tell me why I'm so good. Yeah. You've got to, set the standard and then demonstrate that consistently, and then communicate it as well, educate them.
I preferred your example about the LV shop making people wait outside. But no, we totally get the car analogy. Yeah. Which, by the way, just reminded me that in Daniel Priestley's book, he also mentions not rushing or, slowing things down. I don't know if that was the terms exactly, but I think that notion of, slowing things down, do things properly. You don't have to submit a quote within X amount of time. Like do it well, do it properly, because you want it to be valuable. And it's going to take the time that it needs to take, right? Do you agree with that? Or like, what do you think?
Yeah, like definitely, there's a lot to be said for that. It goes, back to the story about LV, but I don't know if it's Daniel's book or on a podcast. I heard him talk about him wanting to engage a business coach, and he had to wait 2 weeks to get a call with him. When he eventually spoke to the guy after 2 weeks, the guy said, look, I'm going on holiday for 6 weeks. When I get back, it'll be around this date, you give me a call and then we'll talk about working together. And he was a little bit like, geez, okay. But then, when he thought about it, he was like, this guy, obviously has a lifestyle business and respects his time and time away with his family, whatever it is. And he put a note in his calendar. And then he spoke to the guy and he signed up for a $40,000 coaching program with the guy. So he made him wait. But by doing that, like, he wasn't trying to be difficult. What he was demonstrating is that he values his time and that he has value in that marketplace because he's not having to chase him. He's not having to chase his clients. So that's how you want to come across, again, in your own space. Yeah. And you can you can create that environment, again, with intelligent marketing systems and demand that's bigger than what you can deliver on.
Yeah. Let's talk about educational content. What type of educational content or marketing have you seen actually work for builders?
There's so much, man. There's no like just one thing that you want to do. So there's the video production on a job, within your specialty. Like, here's how we build your eco-friendly home on a difficult sloping block on the coast, with everything, with the green technology woven into it, where it's off the grid but still a sexy place, or whatever it is, showing people that build process. They love it. We know people love it. There's an insatiable appetite for content, right? So, and then there's the reveal video. You can drop 30, 40 grand on a video production on a build, right? And if you're going to be doing a build that's a marquee home that you're going to submit for an award with your local association, I would recommend doing that. And don't pay the 30 grand yourself. Collaborate with the architect, designer, suppliers, because they need content for their social media and their website as well. Yeah. And we've got a template that we send out. If anyone listening wants it, I'm happy to share, like an email that our guys send to suppliers to say, would like to invite you in, doing a video production before they engage the supplier. And if it's a $2-3 million build, they're going to pay a lot for suppliers. And the video production of 30 grand is going to be paid for out of the profit anyway by that supplier, and they then going to use the video. So we've got builders that get free, quality, high-end video production done for them, paid for their suppliers, who then market those videos on their platforms. You know what I mean? Nice. I got $15,000 from a pool builder gave me $10,000, and then the bead company that does the beads gave me $5,000 to do a video production, and I didn't have a building company at the time. They just wanted the video content. Okay. So I've seen it happen time and time again. So there's that. Then don't discount just whipping out your phone and shooting some videos on site. Troubleshooting videos. We've got some guys that did that really, really well, where they actually had a camera set up on site all the time. And because they were doing renovations, they ripped floorboards up, and then they'd find things they didn't expect. Happens all the time. Or when you rip a wall down. And then they would go, okay, so this is the situation. Here's what we've discovered. Here's the options. There's 3 options. Here's the one that we recommend for the client. And it's a 5-minute video. And then they throw that up, on their YouTube channel or on their social media. And it builds credibility and trust because they're also doing things above and beyond what was asked of them or expected from them in the contract as well. So it's showing that they're good guys, basically.
Yeah, no, those are all really good ideas. And people love video content, especially if it's tips and tricks or, hey, this is what happened, this is what we're going to do, etc.
There's so much. We've had guys, that creative content library, so like a Dropbox folder, and then they get their team to take videos and put them in there, and then they've got an editing team that, trawls through that content and then creates shorts, medium-term content, whatever it is, and then they put that up. Awesome. On their socials or whatever platforms. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Great advice. I've got a last question for you, and it's about adapting to market changes. So construction industry constantly evolving, as we know. So how can builders stay ahead of market trends and ensure that, they keep the demand up?
I mean, there's so many different expos and shows. The International Builders Show is on now. People can go there. That's a great place to go, by the way, in Vegas. Yeah. We were there last year. There's just like everyone from people from all over the world, basically, showcasing all their different products. So that's like 2 days we will get an update on everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. But I've got to say, for most guys, you've got to be mindful of not chasing the bright, shiny objects. So people are talking about humanoid robots and self-driving cars and everything else, but when we travel around, you see people are still building, like in Bali with bamboo, and they're dealing in cash. And there's planes in Asia where they don't even have USB ports. So there's a big portion of the world that still needs to catch up. I think understanding your core systems and the core areas of your business where you add value is really, really important. So revisiting those, like we do a reflection and review every year, every 12 months. It's really looking at, what, through the lens of the 80-20 principle, what are the 20% of processes that deliver you 80% of your profit, workflow, cash flow, and how well are they working? Again, looking to eliminate bottlenecks, maybe putting some checklists in place, and maybe looking for systems and technology improvements in those areas first and foremost. But don't deviate from what works and then run out and chase something new or different because, you're not going to get traction. But if you've got those solid foundations in place and a process for constantly reviewing them and optimizing them, then by all means, see if there's something new out there that you can adopt.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks. Well, that's really great advice. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. See you on the next one.